Boys Economics second lesson, Globalization and Trade. Globalization is nothing but integration of a country with the world economy. Unity among all countries, that is called globalization. There are three stages in globalization. Now we are going to see one by one. Stage 1, archaic globalization. Stage 2, proto-globalization. Stage 3, modern globalization. Archaic globalization, an early form of globalized economics and culture known as archaic globalization. Very old form of globalization is called archaic globalization. The trade link between the Roman Empire, Parthian Empire and the Han Dynasty made the commercial links between these powers inspired the development of the Silk Road. So we already seen about Silk Road in our 9th standard. So for Silk Road, competition arose between Roman Empire, Parthian Empire and Han Dynasty. So they started to create one trade link, land route. This trade link is the best example for archaic globalization. The Islamic age was also an important early stage of globalization. So Islamic age also called very oldest form of globalization. Proto-globalization. The next phase is known as proto-globalization, that is after archaic globalization, proto-globalization created. It was characterized by the rise of maritime European empires, first the Portuguese and Spanish Empire and Dutch and the British Empire. East India Company described as the first multinational company. Boys, which was created as the first multinational company? East India Company. And the first Dutch East India Company were established. So after East India Company, Dutch East India Company also established. Modern globalization. The 19th century witnessed the advent of globalization approaching its modern form. Between the globalization in the 19th and the 20th century, there are significant differences. So in between these two centuries, there was some differences, 19th and 20th centuries. There was two main points. One is the global trade in his centuries as well as the capital investment. Two important points are there. First one is global trade. Global trade is nothing but, boys, worldwide trade. Second one is capital. Capital is nothing but investment, amount, money. Okay. These two are the very important points in that time. Trade and traders in South India, historical perspective. South Indian trade was formed by Cholas. Afterwards, it was modified by the Pallavas. First early traders came. Afterwards, European traders, Portuguese, Dutch, British, Danes and French. Now first we are going to see about early traders. Early traders. In the year 1053, Kalinga traders brought red colored stone decorative object for trade and also cotton textile to Southeast Asia. So first Kalinga traders introduced red stones and cotton textile to South India. European traders. The discovery of a new all sea route from Europe to India via Cape of Good Hope by Vasco da Gama had for reaching impact on the civilized world. First Vasco da Gama invented Cape of Good Hope. So this was the first impact for the civilized world. The Portuguese. The Portuguese, under the leadership of Vasco da Gama, landed at Calicut on May 1498. Profits of goods brought by Vasco da Gama to Portugal were to 60 times cost of the entire expedition to India. Vasco da Gama brought many goods. That goods cost was 60 times more than entire expedition to India. The second trip of Vasco da Gama in 1502. So boys, what was the first trip of Vasco da Gama? First he landed to Calicut in 1498. This is the first trip of Vasco da Gama. What was the second trip of Vasco da Gama? Vasco da Gama second time entered in Calicut, the same place, in 1502. He landed second time to Calicut. Establishment of trading station at Calicut, Cochin, Cananore. So in the second time he established his trading centers in Calicut, Cochin and Cananore. The Dutch undertook several voyages from 1596 and formed the Dutch East India Company. Dutch formed the Dutch East India Company in the year of 1596. In 1605, Admiral established Dutch factory at Masulipatinam. This man, Admiral, started Dutch factory at which place? Masulipatinam and Devanapattinam. In 1610, upon negotiating with the king of Chandragiri, found another factory at Pulicat. So afterwards, King Chandragiri started another factory in which place? At Pulicat. Pulicat was the headquarters of the Dutch in India. British Company. On 31st December 1600, Queen Elizabeth granted charter to the East India Company. In the year of 1600, very firstly, the East India Company, English East India Company started. On the southeastern coast, the English established at Masulipatinam in 1611 and near Pulicat in 1626. English established their trading centers at Masulipatinam in the year of 1611 and in the place of Pulicat in the year of 1626. In 1639, they built a fortified factory. Fortified factory is nothing but very well developed factory, okay, very well mechanized factory in Madras, which known as Fort St. George. That is only called St. George. The dance formed the East India Company in India in 1616. Dance East India Company was started in the year of 1616. The Danish settlements were established at Tranquebar in 1620, which was the headquarters of Danes in India. So Tranquebar is the headquarters of the Danes in India. In 1845, they left from India, but the Danes left from India in the year of 1845. The French. The first French factory in India was established in the year of 1668. In 1701, Pondicherry was the headquarters of the French. So the French East India Company was started in 1668. So what was the headquarters? Pondicherry was the headquarters. Which year? 1701. Globalization in India. In India, the period after 1980 to 81 was marked by severe balance of payment difficulties. So some payment difficulties are in 1980 and 1981. When the new government took over in June 1991, India had unequaled balance of payment. So India had unequaled balance. Unequaled means what? Not equal. Opposite for equal is unequal. With the downgrading of India's credit rating by some international agencies, there was heavy flight of capital out of India. There was heavy competition aroused in India at that time. Since India lost its credit worthiness in the international market, the government mortgaged 40 tons of gold to the Bank of England. Mortgage is nothing but loan. India brought loan from England Bank. Under these circumstances, the government for 1991 to 92 presented its budget in July 1991 with a series of policy changes. So after that, government announced one new system with several changes in policies. This has come to be called as India's new economic policy. This policy was called as new economic policy. Now we are going to see about that new economic policy. Reforms made to adopt globalization, that is new economic policy in India. Abolition of industrial licensing. Abolition is nothing but don't give license to all industries, that is called abolition. Abolition of industrial licensing except for a few industries. Except few industries, they won't give a license for other industries. Reduction in the number of industries. They reduce the number of industries. Fixation of the realistic exchange rate of rupee. They fixed the correct value of rupees. Foreign private sector by making rupee convertible on trade. Foreign exchanges regulations were suitably amended. So foreign exchanges regulations, foreign exchanges methods were strictly amended. The statutory liquidity ratio, that is SLR, was reduced to increase lending by RBI. Liquidity ratio is nothing but availability of liquid assets, that is called liquidity. Lending is nothing but borrow something. One person allowed other person to borrow something, that is called lending. Next we are going to see about MNC, that is multinational corporation. Multinational corporation is a corporate organization which owns or controls production of goods or services in at least one country other than its home country. Rather than its home country, multinational corporation owns or controls production of goods in other country also, that is called multinational corporation. Abolition of MNC, like the East India Company, which came to India as a trading company and then its net throughout the country to become politically dominant. East India Company politically dominated our country in the times. During 1920s, then slowly entered. Afterwards, it slowly entered into India fully. Into the manufacturing and service sectors after 1950s. It entered in our country's service sector in the year of 1950. Most of the MNCs at present belong to the four major exporting countries are USA, UK, France and Germany. Growth of MNCs in India. A common form of MNC participation in Indian industry is through entering into cooperation with Indian industrialists. These multinational companies have a contact with Indian industrialists. Trends of liberalization in the 1980s gave the sustainable spurt to foreign collaboration. In 1969, America produced $140 billion. This is a very much profit for America. Next we are going to see about reasons for the growth of MNC. How this MNC company grew. Expansion of market territory. As the operations of large sized firm expand, firm is nothing but group or organization. It seeks more and more extension of its activates. Yes or no? Large organization is created. What we want? We need large place and large labors. Marketing superiorities. A multinational firm enjoys a number of marketing superiorities over the national firms. It also wants number of marketing superiorities, many number of markets. Financial superiorities. It has financial resources and high level of funds utilization. Utilization is nothing but usage. Technological superiorities. The main reason why MNC have been encouraged by the underdeveloped countries to participate in their industrial development is on account of the technological superiorities. So, due to these technological superiorities, these multinational companies have been encouraged by underdeveloped countries. Underdeveloped was what? Very poor countries. Next one, product innovations. MNCs have research and development engaged in the task of developing new products. These MNC company very much interested in creating new products. Advantages of MNC. Producing the same quality of goods MNC reduce prices and increase the purchasing power. This MNC reduce the price level and encourage the purchasing power, increase the purchasing power. MNC is able to take advantage of tax variation. So we can easily know about tax variation through this MNC. Disadvantages of MNC. They are a way for the corporations to develop a monopoly. Monopoly means nothing but only one ruler, that is called monopoly. They are a way for the corporations to develop a monopoly. Only one industry will develop easily, like Ambani and Co. Okay, Reliance. Okay, so this is a first advantage. They are also a detrimental effect on the environment. Detrimental is nothing but harmful, very effective effect on the environment. The introduction of MNC may also lead to the downfall of smaller and local business. It may also lead to the downfall of smaller industries. Next we are going to see about fair trade. Fair trade is a way of doing business that ultimately aims to keep small farmers an active part of the world marketplace. So in the world marketplace, small farmers also can participate very actively. This is called fair trade. Beneficiaries of fair trade practices. Who will get benefits due to this fair trade? First one is consumers, that is ourselves. Second one is traders. Third one is producers. Principles of fair trade organization: creating opportunities, transparency and accountability. Transparency means clarity. Fair trading practices: ensuring no child labor. There is no child labor nowadays, yes or no? Commitment to non-discrimination. Discrimination means differentiation. Providing capacity building and promoting fair building. So these fair trades providing capacity to all farmers. Respect for the environment. GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs. GATT was signed by 23 countries in 1947. It was first introduced in the year of 1947. India was one of the founder members of GATT. The Director General of GATT, Arthur Dunkel, came up with a draft final act known as the Dunkel Draft was approved and signed. So this Director General, Arthur Dunkel, approved and signed one draft. What is the name of that draft? Draft Final Act. GATT's primary purpose was to increase international trade. What is the purpose of this GATT? To increase the international trade. World Trade Organization, that is WTO. The signing of the Final Act of the Uruguay Round by member nations on GATT in April 1994 paved the way for setting up the WTO. So this WTO was set up by its member nations after the signing of Final Act of the Uruguay. An agreement to this effect was signed by 104 members. So how many members put sign? 104 members put sign. The WTO agreement came into force from January 1995. This agreement came to force in the year of 1995. Objectives of the WTO. So what are the objectives of the WTO? To set and enforce rules. We have to set our rules. Then to provide a forum for monitoring for the trade liberalization. Forum means nothing but group. We have to provide one group. To resolve trade disputes. Resolve means solve. Disputes means fight. Introduction at the sustainable development. To increase the transparency. To increase the clarity. Introduction, sustainable development. The development and environment can go together. So sustainable development is nothing but development and environment can go together. This is called development. To ensure full employment, to give full employment to all citizens. TRIP, trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, that is called TRIP. Intellectual property rights may be defined as information with a commercial value. TRIPS agreement covers 7 areas of intellectual property rights. So how many areas? 7 areas are covered by this TRIP. Now we are going to see about challenges of globalization, impact and challenges. Positive impact. A better economy introduces rapid development. Rapid development means what? Sudden development. Standard of living has increased. People's standard of living has increased. Globalization rapidly increase better trade. Globalization rapidly leads to better trade, best trade. Introduce new technologies. New technologies may be introduced. Globalization increasing the GDP. This globalization increase our country's GDP, gross domestic product. It helps to increase in free flow of goods, easily flow of goods, that is called free flow. Negative impact. Too much flow of capital amongst countries introduces unfair. Too much of flow, too much of goods came to one country introduces unfair. Then another fear is losing national integrity. There is no integrity within our country due to this globalization. Rapid growth of the economy has required a major infrastructure and resource extraction. Many infrastructure facilities we want, many resources we want. For what? For this globalization. So that is very difficult. Rapidly increases in exploitation of natural resources. So we have to exploit our natural resources. Environmental standards and regulations have been relaxed. Our environmental standards also relaxed. Challenges of globalization. The benefits of globalization extend to all countries. These benefits extend to all countries. The fear that globalization lead to the instability in the developing world. In this developing world, this globalization leads to instability. Instability is nothing but opposite to stability is instability. The industrial world that increased global competition will lead in race to the bottom in wages. There is very differences in wages. Wages means what? Salaries, payments. It leads to global imbalance. Globalization has led to an increase in activities such as child labor and slavery. This leads to the child labor and slavery. People started consuming more junk foods. Nowadays, people started eat more junk foods. Globalization has led to environmental degradation. Our natural resources exploited nowadays. So, our environmental degraded by this globalization. Thank you.